Hi everyone, Donna here. I am going to talk about Equifax again, partly because that really seems to be the issue of the day. That's affected, well, if it affects 165 million and the population is 330 million and we can assume half of those are kids, it affects us all, let's be honest. So I apologize, I'm kind of doing some housekeeping while I'm talking. And I wanted to comment a little bit on a couple of the comments that I got yesterday. Most were really great and on point. But some of you may have noticed I am a hair flipper. It's just the way I am. I don't have any techniques. I'm not a professional actress. I would have loved to have been, but I kind of missed my opportunity. This is just me, and there's no techniques here. And so, you know, I had one lady say that it just made her want to puke, and I was going, I feel bad for you if somebody touching their own hair makes you feel that bad, but whatever. So, you know, if that bothers you, be warned. I play with my hair. I do it all the time. And it's kind of worse because I have a screen showing my own face, so I can actually see what I look like, and I'm always worried about that. So I would love for everybody to comment below. However, please, 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 if you are not adding to the discussion about Equifax, if you want to talk about my hair, my makeup, my hair color, the clutter on my desk, whatever it is, that has nothing to do with Equifax, and it just doesn't belong on a thread like this. I don't know why people even do that. But I do want to talk quite a bit, about Equifax. Like I said yesterday, this is affecting not just me, not just you, it's affecting us all. And it's really tough because it's also coming right on the heels of Hurricane Harvey, Hurricane Irma. I am in Utah. I live just south of Salt Lake City. And Montana, Idaho, California, Oregon, and Washington are pretty much on fire. So it just seems like oh, and Idaho's having earthquakes, and they're worried about the Yellowstone caldera. So there's just a lot going on, and now we have to deal with Equifax not being able to secure their data. And I'm really shocked. I don't know why I am, but I am kind of shocked that they weren't taking steps. Now, some of the good news is there are things that we can do. I talked about this yesterday. The very first thing you need to do is to talk to the big three reporting agencies, Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. I understand from one of my commenters yesterday that TransUnion is also not charging for to freeze your credit, and I strongly recommend that you do that. If you have LifeLock, you might want to talk to them about it. In any case, whether you have LifeLock or not, whether you choose to freeze your credit or not, watch your credit reports, all three of them, like a hawk. I do this anyway, partly because I'm trying to keep my credit score high. I know I'm going to be taking out some loans in the near future. So I want to keep my credit score high, and I want to keep it as clean as possible. So I watch my credit report very, very frequently, and now even more so, because if you catch these quickly, it's a lot less of a hassle than if you find them 6, 12, 36 months down the line when you decide you need a new car and you can't get financing. And of course, everything that Equifax has is what we need for what is needed to steal your identity. I've never had my identity stolen. Knock on wood. Hopefully I never will. And I don't know if it's probably just dumb luck. Or maybe they tried and they did it when I was younger and poor and found out that there was no point in stealing my identity. But according to Yahoo Finance, it was 143 million Americans that were affected. And you know what? That really is almost everybody who has a credit report. So if you didn't get affected by this, you can count yourself as one of the lucky ones. And it says, number one, if you are a ginormous credit bureau, do not use open source software. I'm just floored that I just read that. They used open source software. It's called Apache Struts, and that gave them the crack. And I'm just like, you don't use open source. If you are, I have no problems with open source in and of itself, okay? Open source is great. That means a lot of different people can work on a lot of different things, and they can suggest and make changes, and some of them are not honest. So, dear Equifax, use proprietary software, not open source. Just, you have the money, please. There's places where it needs to be spent. It's like I was telling one of my very dear friends who he kept trying to buy really cheap computers, older computers. He brought me one to update and upgrade because I'm a little bit of a computer whiz. And I finally called him back and said, this doesn't belong in your office. It belongs in a museum. And there are times and places to be cheap. This is not one of them. So I would give the same message to Equifax. There's a time and a place to be cheap. I don't like spending money when it's not necessary to spend money. That's money that can go for shoes. But there's a time when you need to spend top dollar, and they didn't do that. I'm still kind of shocked. So that even makes everything look worse. The FTC is currently investigating. Again, this affects all of us. So, and they're going about this completely wrong. They're dodging inquiries, and that is probably the one thing. I sometimes say that it's not making a mistake that breaks a company. It is the way they respond to making a mistake. You know, an example of doing it right was Tylenol back in the 80s, early 80s, when they had those tampered bottles that had several people die from taking Tylenol from bottles that had been tampered with, and I think cyanide had been put in them. And instead of Tylenol saying, well, it wasn't our fault, or dodging any inquiries, hello Equifax, they actually proactively, as soon as they found out, they pulled everything off the shelf completely. You couldn't find Tylenol in the store. And then they came out with tamper-resistant packaging so that it would never happen again. That is the right way to do this, Equifax. But Equifax is trying to kind of dodge responsibility, and I do not like that. And the really sad thing is, as a credit consumer, there's no way for me to opt out of working with Equifax. We're stuck with them. So we are really relying on the FTC to really get down to the bottom of this. By the way, this happened in May. May through July, they were having all of these intrusions into their database. They didn't bother to tell us, the people that were affected, until September 7th. And like I said, there's a great way to do things, and there's a not very great way to do things, and they're really choosing the wrong way. I'm just floored. I guess if there's anything to be said about it, they're really illustrating all of the wrong ways to go about business. Number one, because we have no control. We as consumers have no control over what is reported to whom. So we're kind of stuck with Equifax. And that kind of bothers me. I don't like being forced to do business. The people that can change this, though, are the people that are pulling credit reports. If they start saying, we don't want to do business with Equifax anymore, we're not going to pay for credit reports through Equifax anymore. If they're the ones that start making the complaints, if they start going to TransUnion and saying we want these credit reports because we can't trust Equifax. That may be enough to get, sometimes it takes a boycott, and I just hate to say that. But they are taking absolutely no responsibility for any of this. They are just choosing to pretty much try to ignore it. And so the FTC is breathing down their necks, and that is a good thing. I'm not a fan of big government. I am really, but I'm not a fan of big government. However, there's times and places when we really need somebody to look out for our interests for us, and this is one of those times. So FTC is looking into it. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has announced its own investigation, and the House Financial Services Committee is investigating. And so, let's hope we find out really what happened. My disappointment with Equifax is, like I said, stuff happens. It happens to everybody. We all make mistakes, and that was a huge one. But they're not following through. They're not admitting responsibility in any way, shape, form, or fashion. They're not even pretending. If you ever heard some of those apologies that are not apologies, like, I'm so sad your feelings were hurt. I'm so sorry you feel that way. That's not an apology. That's a way of flipping responsibility around to the other person. But we're not even getting that out of them. So, don't even know what to say. We're not even getting them saying, well, we're sorry that this happened, without admitting responsibility. What we're getting is the runaround, and I am not happy about that. If they wanted to really improve their brand, they would have immediately, in May and June and July, come forward, said, we believe there's a data breach. We are taking action right now, instead of letting hackers have 3 months to get everything. But they could have come forward and said, we are taking action right now, here in May, now that we see that there's an intrusion, to take care of this. And I just am shocked. I don't know why I'm so shocked, but I am, that they have chosen not to do that. So I'm kind of following this story because this is finance, and it's finance that affects each and every one of us. We are all consumers of credit, even if we don't ever take out a loan or a credit card, we still consume credit in some way, shape, or form. If you ever want to buy a house, if you ever want to buy a car, something like this could be devastating. Although, whoever it is that has my take out, maybe you could pay down my credit cards. That would be nice. But I'm floored that they're going about this all the wrong way. So I am going to go ahead and close. It's Thursday afternoon. We're starting to get fall weather here in Utah. So maybe we'll get rid of all the fires in the west. For those of you in the south that are being affected by hurricanes, please stay safe. And I will look forward to talking to you tomorrow.